Hey, this is Sasha Evdokov, and thanks for joining me here at Backstage Income, where I share with you how money is made behind the scenes for your business and also your life. Now, in today's video, what I'd like to do is share with you why it's imperative and really important to ask for referrals at the right time. So as you start looking at the timeline of when you're actually connecting with other people that you deal business with, this timeline really varies from person to person, but there's a few instances really where it's most important or you have a higher percentage of chance of acquiring and getting more referrals from your past customers. So take a look at this timeline and look at it in terms of your customer going through and purchasing your product or service. So if we really look at this and we look at this somewhere over here, that this customer went ahead and made a transaction, that this is when their purchase time frame was with your business or your product or service. Now along this timeline before this is where they did some research about you. This is when they were starting to get to know you. Maybe around this time, this is when they had a chat or a conversation. Now as you continue throughout this timeline, this is when the sale happened. Potentially over here, this is when the service was actually rendered, and this is when things actually happened. And then slowly right after this, maybe around this time is when you had a follow-up or another connection. So if we look at this from a business, so let's just say a wedding photography business, over here might be where the desire or the want happens, where a person or a potential customer wants your photography services if you're running a photography business. After that, they might run across your website and now they start getting some insight, or they hear something about your company. Maybe they stumbled upon it or they see your sign as they drive by. Right here is when they talk to you and pick up the phone. Then you go ahead and do the payment, the services, it's rendered, and finally executing those services or potentially delivering the products or the prints. So if you're selling photography services, you render the services here, and then you go ahead and submit the final photographs along with the prints over here. And then finally, you might do a follow-up and a final consultation over here right at the end, where you're actually making sure that everything worked out really well. They got it delivered from your printing company if you use a printing company, and everything is up to your standards. So if this whole thing is our timeline, at least the timeline that we are involved with the customer, of course this timeline goes out in this direction and further out in this direction, but if this is our main timeline, at least for our business, then where is it that the referrals are more likely to happen? When should you ask for the referrals? Well, if you ask too early, if you ask for a referral somewhere over here before they even know you, then if they don't know you, how can you ask for a referral? It makes no sense. On the flip side, if you ask, let's say 5 years later, after you did the wedding photography service, they probably already forgot about you. They probably don't even remember your name, or maybe they just don't know anybody else that's related to or interested in your services. So by now, all their friends are also gone. They're already married. So this, again, also is not a critical time or point where you want to ask for referrals. So as you start condensing this period, well, you start looking at these extremes and you start looking at where is the more likelihood where the referrals are going to happen. And if you're looking at a business, typically at the point where you want to ask for the referral is somewhere right between the time where the services are rendered up until the point where they're just slightly at that final product. This is where the sweet spot is when asking for the referral. And you want to do that because you want to hit it in the sweet spot. If you don't hit it in the sweet spot, kind of like on a tennis racket, if you're looking for the ball, you want to hit it somewhere around here. Okay, so if this is your tennis racket, you want to go ahead and hit that ball on that sweet spot, in that sweet spot zone. If you hit it too far over here or over here, you hit the frame and it doesn't go in the direction you want it to go. So when you're looking at a business, you want to hit it in this sweet zone. And what is the sweet zone when it comes to asking for a referral? Well, the first thing that's in the sweet spot is the timing. So asking for the timing, the right time, this is one thing that's really important. And our timeline that we want to ask for is right here. This is that range or region. Now, to get more specific, When is it that you want to do it? Well, the time when people are most emotional or most ecstatic, they're happiest. So if you can do it at a highly emotional time frame or an emotional moment during this process where they somewhat have some experience with you, and you time it correctly, you're more likely to get a referral. So let's look back at a photography-based business. So again, first they're discovering what it is they want, different packages. So they might not even know you yet. Then they run across your website. They're getting to know you. They communicate with you, and then they chat with you. Then finally, they go ahead and they start rendering the services for them. So that's what you go ahead and do. You go ahead and render the services. You go ahead and potentially right here, maybe this is where their wedding is, or you're doing the photography services right here. And then you're delivering the prints. So what if somewhere around this time or this moment, somewhere when you're rendering the services and before you send off the final prints, you give them a gift, a thank you gift. It could be a little album, something like a photo book, or it could be something simple, just like a regular gift. It could be a congratulations gift, like a little trip, a little vacation, a little hotel spot, a little breakfast, gift certificate, whatever it is. So it could be just a regular gift. But if you can get them more emotional by giving them something like an album, like a regular gift, something that creates that emotional high right here around this point in your timing during that transaction, during those services rendered, then all of a sudden you get more credibility. People have a higher emotional value and connection to you, and now they are more likely to go ahead and follow through on your request. So imagine you spend a couple of extra $100, let's say $200 or $300, to get an album printed for your bride and groom, of which they actually paid you somewhere around $3,000 to photograph their wedding. So now when you do the follow-up phone call right around this time and you ask them, hey, how did your prints turn out? And inside with those prints is that album. And now they are extremely happy. They're loving what it is you gave them for absolutely nothing. Even though it may have cost you $200, $300, remember you got paid $3,000. So now while you're on the phone call, while you're doing your final follow-ups, you go ahead and say, hey, I'm really trying to build my business and I want to provide the same high quality service to other brides and grooms like I did to you. Do you happen to know any other friends or other colleagues that are potentially getting married in the next year or 2 years? So when you phrase something like that, especially when you did something emotional that contributed to the bride and groom, if those people, if your bride and groom, the services that you rendered actually do have somebody or know someone in mind, then they are much more likely to go ahead and pass other people to you. Now, of course, maybe they don't know someone, and that's perfectly okay. At least you went ahead and went above and beyond to deliver this added service. But think about it in the long-term view. What if that person somewhere down here later on in life finds out that her best friend is now getting married or engaged? So what do you think she's going to do? She's going to go ahead and send her your way. And now this timeline continues, and you'll be able to do photography for their wedding as well, because the referral is going to keep going, because this emotional high is going to stick in that person's mind. And if you continue doing this, it creates a snowball effect. It continues to roll down the mountain because you create and add good services for this person, then the next person, then the next person. And it constantly creates that effect where maybe this person might send you referrals 2 years later. This person might send you a referral 1 year later. One might send you 5 years later. But if you continue this process and continue building this good quality value, triggering people, hitting them at highly emotional timings while you're providing your service, it's going to keep you in a very high state of mind when they think about wedding photography or think about your business. So that's why it's important to ask for the referral at the appropriate time. It's important to ask at a critical time. If you ask too early, there's no way you'll be able to stay in touch with that person. If you ask too late after the services are rendered somewhere over here past that timeline, then of course they're probably going to forget about you. They probably are not at that emotional moment in their time frame on their purchasing scale. So instead, it's best to ask when they're at that critical point, when they have that emotional high, when you're providing those services, and they feel good about what you're doing. So remember, focus on the timing. Don't ask too soon, but don't ask too late. Ask at that critical emotional time when you provide that extra added value, extra added service, and feel good situation to your customer. Thanks for joining me in this video. I hope you found it helpful and maybe a little bit stimulating to when is the right time to ask for that referral, especially if you're more fearful about asking for those referrals. You need to go out and ask. If you don't ask, you probably won't get them. Now, if you're interested in seeing other training videos like this one or see some of the private training videos that I have available, click this button right here, and when you get there, enter your name and email address, and I'll be sure to put you on my newsletter list so that way when new training videos are released, you will get notified. Now, if you want to see some of the courses that I have available about building a profitable business or other business training courses, then click the button right below this video and you'll be taken to that courses page. In the end, remember to do what you love, contribute to others, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you next time.